presented by the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and Oshkosh Media. This event is being simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Recordings can be found on the Oshkosh Media YouTube page, and replay schedules for government TV can be found on oshkoshmedia.org. I'm tonight's moderator, Margie Davey. The League of Women Voters seeks to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. We never support nor oppose any political party or candidate. For more information about the League of Women Voters, you can access our website at lwvwinnebago.org. 3 candidates are competing for 2 seats on the school board for a 3-year term. Barb Herzog is the incumbent. Angie Lee, who was appointed to fill the seat after the resignation of Bob Peschel, chose not to seek election. Challengers for the 2 seats are Adam Belcarelli and Kelly DeWitt. Karen Schneider, publisher of the Oshkosh Herald, is joining me tonight on the panel. Public questions were solicited in advance. Those of you in the audience may submit questions if you wish. Just ask for a card and wave it when you're done. Questions may be edited for brevity and clarity, and while we hope to cover as many as we can, we may not have enough time for all. Candidates, please keep your answers concise so that we may cover as many issues as possible. You've all met our timekeeper. She'll give you cues, and if the stop sign comes up, if you heed that, I won't have to stop you. This is not a debate. You will each be given the same amount of time for the same question. At the conclusion of this forum, I will offer you each an opportunity to make a final statement. And with that, we'll begin with our opening statements. You'll each have 2 minutes to summarize your background, qualifications, and your motivation for seeking a seat on the school board. Why should voters choose you over the other candidates? And we'll start with you, Barb.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Barb Herzog, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County for making this opportunity available to all of us so that you can all get to know us as candidates. I'm a graduate of UWO and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Been involved in public education throughout my entire career as a teacher, a building level administrator, a central office administrator, and as a member of the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education for 10 years. I've been very involved in the Oshkosh community as a volunteer and as a leader, including serving as president of the Oshkosh Area Community, Oshkosh Area United Way, the Women's Fund of the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation, Oshkosh Symphony Board, St. Vincent de Paul Board, and SOAR Board. In addition, I bake pies for Pie on the Porch. I've had the honor and privilege of serving on the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education for 10 years. And the 4 things I stand for are part of what motivates me to run. To increase student learning and growth for all students, update facilities, emphasize fiscal responsibility, and promote equity and transparency. I believe the board is moving in the right direction with long-range plans for facilities and technology, reading literacy goals built into the board policy, and a new continuous improvement plan to measure results and promote accountability. People note that I am a strong leader, I'm experienced, and I'm a caring leader. I've demonstrated commitment, dedication, energy, and strong leadership on the board, and I'd like to continue to serve on this board. And I thank you, excuse me, I thank you for providing me this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Adam, you're next.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, I'm Adam Belcarelli. I'm a regional transportation planner and an engaged community member here in Oshkosh. I'm involved in nonprofits that help provide basic necessities to our neighbors. I'm involved in organizations that help develop leadership skills and creative thinking. I'm also involved in groups fighting for racial equity, economic equity, and social equity. I got a master's degree in philosophy, a bachelor's degree in philosophy, a master's degree in public administration, because I love discussing big ideas and solving problems that haven't yet been solved. I also believe that we can do more when we come together as a community. In my day job and in my volunteer work, I focus on ways to increase access. Access to essential goods and services, access to food, access to opportunity. And all of that informs why I'm running for Oshkosh School Board, because I believe our public schools are the safest, most uplifting place for many of our students. And it's our responsibility as a community to make sure each student has access to the tools to become the best version of themselves in a safe place where they know they belong and they're cared for. That's me. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Kelly?
Well, good evening. Thank you to the League for inviting us here again. My name is Kelly DeWitt, and I'm once again running for a seat on the Oshkosh School Board. As a lifelong resident of Oshkosh, product of our public schools, and mother of 2 young children, my chief interest is to protect and ensure that our children receive the best possible education. The last 11 years of my professional career has been spent serving children and families right here in our district. As a case manager in local social services, I've worked with many diverse individuals who rely heavily on the school district, and this experience has provided me with a deeper understanding of not only the district, but also the needs of our community and our students. During my time as a counselor, I have gained experience in the following areas: assessment, planning, implementation, coordination, and evaluation, all of which make me an asset to the board. This experience throughout my human services career makes me an advocate, facilitator, negotiator, decision maker, and critical thinker. I will be a new outside voice to the board, and I will bring a deep desire, dedication, and passion to help serving our students of the Oshkosh School District. I ask that you please vote for me, Kelly DeWitt, April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now move on to the public questions. These are public policy questions that were submitted in advance or tonight at the forum by the public. You will each have 1 minute to respond to each question. And I'm going to let Karen begin with a question for Adam.
All right. Hello, Adam.
Hi.
This is a submitted question, and I actually do have the form that they sent in as support here. So in the past decade, in English language arts, our proficiency percentile has fallen from 41% in 2013 to 29% this past year. And in mathematics, it has fallen from 76% in 2013 down to 36% in 2022. This seems staggering that the Oshkosh community accepts this performance. What role do you believe a Board of Education member plays in holding district staff accountable for academic achievement for our students?
Well, first of all, I believe, though, and thank you for that question. That's a very well put together question. I appreciate that. The numbers that are cited there are something that we've seen across the board as in the follow-up to the COVID epidemic. And having schools be able to figure out how to address the loss that happened when students were at home. And so that's not unusual. So that we're in a similar boat to many other organizations that way. So I think it's up to us to create the environment where students feel safe and supported so that they can perform academically the way they're needed to. We also have invested in reading curriculum that is now being implemented. So that's to address that portion of it, to be able to utilize the tools that have been purchased already. That's going to be important.
And you're done.
Thank
Okay.
you. Kelly?
Could you please repeat the question?
Sure. In the past decade, in English language arts, proficiency percentile has fallen from 41% in 2013 to 29% this past year. And in mathematics, it has fallen from 76% in 2013 down to 36% in 2022. What role do you believe a Board of Education member plays in holding district staff accountable for academic achievement of our students?
Well, that, as Adam had said, that's a great question, and I feel strongly about holding staff and teachers and parents as well accountable, right? And so I think that this isn't something that needs to fall solely on the school. I think that this is where creating partnerships with parents and outside agencies is a big tool that can be used to come together to help our students achieve and receive the best education possible. I think in the news recently, there has also been information provided regarding the science of reading and really focusing and finding out how students learn and how they're able to learn and neurologically and what's going on there. So I think, you know, bringing that, something like that into the district could absolutely help that situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Barb?
Thank you. That's a great question, and it's one that the board has been wrestling with for some time. The COVID, what I call the COVID cloud, hasn't helped with that. And the youngsters I feel the most concerned for are those in grades K through 2, because they didn't have a chance to have some of those same learning experiences as their older siblings. The district has used some of their ESSER funds from the federal government to address this. We've invested a great deal of money in terms of reading materials. We've updated our reading curriculum, as I noted in my opening statement, and we've moved much more in the direction of the science of reading. The district is currently working on a new continuous improvement plan, which will be presented to the board next week, Wednesday, for possible adoption, either that night or a future one. And that will address the scores that you've cited, reading and math, and will hold the district accountable.
Thank you.
Okay, my turn for a question, and I'm going to start with you, Kelly. The school board has made a commitment of to the 9 principles of the civility project. How can these tenets be effectively shared with staff and students across the district?
Well, I think first and foremost, communication, right? Communicating. The first question that I have, does everybody within the school district know and understand those 9 principles? Without that communication and without folks knowing that, I think we have a problem. As far as, you know, looking at them and knowing them, being agreeable, I think that is okay to have, but at some point you do need to have a diversity of thought. Our community, our schools, we're very diverse, but yet we have like-minded people that are saying, let's be agreeable. Well, I think that it's important to be able to communicate each of those 9 principles to each and every staff member and teacher within the district. Thank you.
Thanks. Barb?
Thank you. The school district was an early adopter of the 9 principles that make up the civility project for Oshkosh. We post these in our classrooms, we post them in the boardroom, and we also sometimes remind people who come to speak with us to follow those. It's important that we treat one another with respect, we listen to one another, and that we don't engage in less desirable behavior. We can have civil conversations and still attack difficult topics. So we do communicate these on a regular basis, and we do draw attention to them at our board meetings.
Thank you. Adam?
Excellent. Yes, I'm a big fan of the Civility Project. We worked a lot with it when I was an academic advisor at UW Oshkosh. And I believe in order to engage in any topic and in any learning, you need to be able to have the open discussion. And those 9 principles are a great framework to be able to engage in difficult topics. And again, as a school board and or in the schools, these are topics that students need to address because it's their day-to-day lives. It's what they're experiencing. And so in order to allow them to express themselves, we need to have this guidance so that they know how to interact with one another and they know what the community expects of them when they're having those discussions.
Thank you. Question?
For Adam? Yes. Okay, we'll go with,
No, start with Barb.
oh, okay, I think I just did, didn't I? Okay.
No.
All right, so we'll go with you, Barb. So it's been a bit of an evening already, so this is our 3rd forum. Please give me grace. What school policy would you change if you could, and why?
During my tenure on the board, the board has reviewed all district policies. We do that on an annual basis, not each and every policy, but we review lots of policies every year. We have recently changed our policy related to student learning in the area of literacy, and we now have embedded goals to be attained in policy, which holds administrators more accountable. I would like to see us do the same thing in the area of math, put in targets that we will pledge to meet, and also with the achievement gap, looking to close the achievement gap for students who are marginalized and reduce that gap by a certain percentage every year.
Thank you, Barb. Adam?
I don't know that there's any one policy, but I would add a racial equity component to each of the policies that exist and make sure that we're focusing on that because there are the specific gaps that we're seeing in opportunity and achievement for our students of color, and that's something that we as a community need to focus on.
Thank you, Adam. Kelly?
Thank you. That's a great question. I would like to go a little bit of a different route here. I wouldn't say that there's one specific policy that I would like to see changed. I would like to give some kudos, though, to the board in bringing on Dr. Brian Davis as a superintendent. I think that we have seen a lot of improvements with him as our superintendent. So there isn't necessarily one specific policy that I would like to see changed, but I would like to give kudos there to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay. I'm going to start with you, Adam. Do you support the inclusion of climate science in the elementary and middle school science curriculum?
Yeah, of which?
Do you support climate science, to have that included in elementary and middle school curriculums?
Absolutely. I think we have to follow the science on any topic that we're looking at, and climate change is a very real threat to our existence, and so we kind of need to address that. So yes, I think having that taught at age-appropriate levels in the schools is essential.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think to bounce off of Adam, climate change is important and is something that we need to, talk about and teach about. However, I think that when we're seeing our enrollment numbers drop and our math and literacy scores decline, I think that we have a little bit more of an important situation on our hands than worrying about climate change. So thank you.
And Barb?
Thank you. I appreciate that question as well. I'm a proponent of science. My academic background is in the social studies area. However, my sister is a scientist, and she keeps me on the straight and narrow. But I think we need to deal with facts, and there are plenty of facts, and there's plenty of data to demonstrate that climate change is real. Whatever topic we teach, we need to do that at a developmentally appropriate level and follow the national standards on the teaching of science as well as those advocated by the Department of Public Instruction.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly, this question will come to you first. Equity and inclusion are key indicators for the district. What type of changes would you recommend in supporting schools in economically disadvantaged areas so all students had comparable resources, i.e. things that are PTO and booster club driven?
Okay, well, thank you for the question. I think first and foremost, we need to look at how the district defines the word equity. In researching, I haven't found one solid definition of how equity is defined. Truthfully, it sounds really great. It sounds, I agree with meeting the needs of each and every student. However, as a mom of 2 young kids, it's unfair to say that each of my children are going to be academically the same, come out academically the same. So I think if I had a little bit better of a definition of how the school district defines equity, I would be able to answer a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Barb?
Thank you. If you watched the school board meeting last night, you know that we talked quite a bit about equity and inclusion and diversity. One of the policies that will be coming to the board within the next month will be one on equity. There'll be a statement that comes from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards definition of equity, which means that we treat people not the same, not equally, but what are their needs. So those schools that perhaps have fewer resources available to them, the PTO might not have the resources to raise funds as another one does, we may have to adjust some resources within the district to make that happen. Sometimes it's a matter of a a principal who's been very successful in lobbying for his or her school more than another, and so that also creates some inequities. So looking at making sure that students receive what they need to be successful is really what equity is all about.
Thank you. Adam?
Yeah, I think a key way to begin in solving this is to hire a diverse leadership group. So teachers, administrators, people that have that lived experience that can relate to the community that they're working in. And then from my experience on PTO, the more that a school can make families feel included and involved in the academic environment and in that location, the more they can be involved and connected to the learning experience. So I think the more that we can build that kind of community around each school so that it's an entire community looking out and helping those students learn, I think that helps get to that end.
Thank you.
Okay, this one goes to you first, Barb. Are there topics or subjects that should be cut from the school curriculum, or are there ones that should be added?
Thank you for that question. It's not what I've thought about recently. We try to update our curriculum on an ongoing basis following the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards. Most teachers would tell you there's too much curriculum to be taught every year, and so teachers and subject area specialists might be in a better position to tell us things that could be streamlined or that could be integrated into other content areas to make sure that we address those. For example, in the area of reading, reading doesn't have its own content area, so we can do a lot with reading content on topics that we want to make sure that students address.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Adam?
Can you repeat the question, please?
I would be happy to. Where did I put it?
Number 8.
Okay. Are there topics or subjects that should be cut from the school curriculum, or are there ones that should be added?
So I'm a proponent of keeping faith in the teachers and the staff that design the curriculum. So I don't believe it's up to the board to cut and add curriculum things. I believe it's the board's position to find good people that are going to do their job well. And so there is nothing in the curriculum currently that I've heard of that I would object to. And I'm sure they're constantly innovating in what and how they are teaching it. And I have faith in the staff and the administrators that way.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you for that question. So as we know, the curriculum does come from the state. We obviously have standards that we need to meet, and it does fall into the school board to make the final approval. As a school board member, I would like to see more of an active role in that. I think that we are able to work more closely with the public to inquire what they want to see and make sure that those values are represented in our curriculum. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, Karen.
Okay, Adam, this will come to you first. Should private and voucher schools receiving tax money be required to submit performance reports?
So to begin and then answer that question is, I think the voucher system is problematic, and it is reducing essential resources to our public schools. But if organizations are going to receive public money, they should be held to the same standard that every public school is. They should be required to educate every student and meet all of the needs, whether it's special ed or students from disadvantaged backgrounds, just like a public school is, if they're going to accept that money.
Thank you, Adam. Kelly?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Should private and voucher schools receiving tax money be required to submit performance reports?
Thank you. So I would say, bouncing off of Adam, I do believe that, schools receiving those vouchers should be held accountable, similar to the way that the public school system is. In regards to talking about those vouchers and school choice, I will say this. as a parent, I have the ability to choose which doctor is best fit for my child's needs and my family. And I think that you could look at that as the same with the school vouchers and school choice. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been a member of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and we talk about this quite a bit among the 421 public schools in the state of Wisconsin. Most of us would say that there are different rules that apply to the public schools as compared to the voucher schools. We don't have the same rules to follow. Voucher schools get their transportation provided by the public schools. We service most of their special needs students. In the Oshkosh area alone, the taxpayers funded voucher schools to the tune of over $4 million this year. And in the last 5 years, they've provided $17 million that came off the tax rolls. So when people look at their tax bills and they question those, be aware that probably $4 million went directly to the private schools. We do not gain money from that, but we are kind of a pass-through. So I think if they're going to accept public money, we have a right to know how well their students are being educated, because we all have a stake in how well kids are educated in our community.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Moving on to the next question, which we will start with you, Kelly. How should the district curriculum handle hot topics such as slavery and racism?
Thank you. I think that it is very important to touch on, our history and make sure that our children are aware of current events and past events. I think that, we need to be open in discussion on what has happened. I don't think that hiding anything or keeping anything back or trying to erase history is something that we should be doing. Not saying that we are. I think it's just important to teach history as it came and how it was presented. Thank you.
Thanks. Barb?
This is a topic, excuse me, hot topics is a topic that school districts across the country have had to deal with. First of all curriculum should be developmentally appropriate. It should be honest. It should be truthful. We should be teaching students how to think, not what to think. And we should help them with critical thinking skills. We need to help them distinguish between fact and opinion. The school board really doesn't write curriculum. That's up to the school board single employee. We employ one employee, and that would be the superintendent. And it's up to the superintendent to make sure that the teachers and the teachers are following the district curriculum, which is probably based on model academic standards from Wisconsin and from subject area specialists, and most of them are not going to include the hot topics that you referenced.
Thank you. Adam?
So in working with young people, I've learned that there's no topic too hot for them. They can have these discussions just fine. And I think we need to encourage that and, again, give them a rubric for how to do that with civility and how to do that in a way that encourages one another and helps to build that inquisitiveness and build that curiosity. Because while we as parents often get worried about these hot topics or what's going on in politics and that sort of thing, students tend to be much more aware of it than we know than we often think they are, and I think we need to be able to give them the room to have those discussions.
Thank you.
Okay, so following up to that, Barb, I think this question comes to you first.
Thank you.
What does CRT stand for, and is it taught in Oshkosh schools?
Excuse me. CRT is usually defined as critical race theory. My understanding of that, and I've done some research on that, would suggest that it was originally taught at the college level, specifically at the graduate level. To my knowledge, it is not taught in the Oshkosh Public Schools, or I'm not aware of any school in the state of Wisconsin that teaches that. Some people find it to be very divisive, pitting one racial group against another, and that's not what we're looking to do in our district. Certainly, we want to be honest and truthful with curriculum, as I stated earlier. We also want to follow the civility project, but our focus is not on divisiveness.
Thank you.
It's on inclusivity. Thank you.
Adam?
Critical race theory is a legal framework, but I don't believe there's any reason or instance of it being taught in the Oshkosh schools.
Thank you. Kelly?
I piggyback off of what both Barb and Adam have stated. It has been said time and time again, CRT or critical race theory is not being taught in our schools. As a definition of that, what many folks believe is that CRT is recognizing that racism is more of a result instead of individual bias or prejudice. And again, I've talked to many folks and have heard time and time again, CRT is not being taught in our schools.
Thank you. Let's see, I'm going to go to you first, Adam. The building of new schools is a great opportunity to improve our building's long-term financial and environmental sustainability. How can the school district make our facilities more resilient?
So I believe updating our schools and the buildings themselves so that they are able to fully utilize technology and allow our students, no matter their ability, to fully engage in all of the aspects of learning, that's essential. So the more that we can upgrade and whether it's the remodel or the rebuild that we've been able to do with past referenda, that's been hugely beneficial for our students and our staff. I think the consolidation, one of the big benefits to consolidating those schools is that staff no longer have to travel from one building to another, which allows them to more fully integrate themselves into the culture of the one school and be able to more fully serve our students by concentrating on being there for the full day rather than how they're going to get across town.
Thanks. Kelly?
Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. We're building some new schools. How can the school district make the new schools more resilient, or all of our facilities more resilient?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when touching on building a new school or even removing the Merrill School building is I think safety is a number one priority, and I'm not sure why I keep doing this, so I'm sorry. I think that safety is a number one concern and priority. So I think that being resilient, we need to look at how are we going to keep our students and our staff safe within a school? We need to question the school resource. How many school resource officers are we going to have there? Once we're able to understand the safety process of that, I think we're then able to become, as an entire school and community, more resilient. So thank you for that question.
Thanks. And Barb?
Thank you. This fits in with the adoption of the 10-year long-term facilities plan, which was adopted by the district in January of 2020 as the result of a facilities advisory committee that the board had asked that the superintendent create. One of the reasons that we're looking at consolidation is to save funds. It's very inefficient to operate, especially some of these smaller elementaries, which have fewer than 200 students. We can have more efficient use of our staff by having some buildings that are larger. And it's a problem to retain staff because they don't like traveling between buildings. And if they can find a job in another district where they can be full-time in one building, that's usually more advantageous. The newer building should be more responsive to active hands-on learning, which is more the mode of instruction today as compared to what it was 50 to 75 years ago when some of these elementary schools were built. And overall efficiencies in operations can also be attained. Thank you.
Karen?
All right, and I am
Kelly?
Kelly. Who wants to go first? Okay, so the question is going to go to the new schools. So have you kept yourself up to date on the district's current school building projects? And what do you think are the most important issues going forward with students and teachers moving to new locations and facilities?
And this is me?
Yes.
Okay, that's an excellent question. And first and foremost, again, I have been up to date with the process of the new school and, talking with a lot of the folks who came together to try to save Merrill School. And I've talked also with a lot of parents, and I think that the number one concern and question that we as a community need to have answered is the safety, right? You've seen, I'm sure, in the news within the last month, issues at both Merrill and Webster occurring, and now we're looking at combining both of those schools together. So I think that really the number one question and the number one concern that I, along with many community members, have is the safety, and how are we going to address and handle that, and what are we going to do to ensure that not only our students and staff are safe and secure, but also our community. Thank you.
Barb?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question?
Sure. Have you kept yourself up to date on the district's current school building projects? And what do you think are the most important issues going forward with students and teachers moving to new locations and facilities?
Okay, thank you. I think one of the key issues there is the culture and the climate of the new school. When the new Val Phillips Middle School will be opening, that will be combining 2 student bodies and two student faculties. And I know they've done some things to try to meld the staffs over the last year, but more of that will be continuing when they occupy that building, and of course integrating the students from the 2 schools. There will be more updated safety features in these buildings than what we've perhaps seen in other schools. But yes, I have kept up to date on the
I would hope so.
facilities. And culture and climate is very important to me, because we have had some issues in a couple of the north side buildings, and we want to make sure that we have a safe environment for all students throughout the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Adam?
So I have been keeping up to date. My daughter is in the final class at Merrill, and my son will be the first class at Val Phillips. So I'm very excited about that change and those opportunities there. And I think that for both Val Phillips Middle School and Menominee Elementary, the most important thing will be to create affirming and uplifting culture for students and for staff and administration in those buildings. I think if you want to do anything with people learning the things we want them to learn, they first need to feel like they belong in those spaces. And so the more and the sooner that we can create those uplifting spaces, the better off the whole rest of the experience with those buildings will be.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks. Okay, this question's going to go to you first, Barb. How can we increase the number of substitute teachers that are available?
Again, that's been a topic not only in our district, but throughout the state of Wisconsin. There are fewer and fewer individuals who have gone into teacher education over the last 5 to 10 years. Those who had been our regular dependable substitutes often have found regular jobs, and so our pool has diminished. We have looked at ways of reaching out to parents in the community, professionals who perhaps can take a day away from their job and come into the schools and sub. We have looked at ways that we can bring back retirees without their impacting their state teacher retirement, so that we can bring those qualified and dedicated people back into the classrooms. I think we can do a marketing job in terms of reaching out to more people in the community who have at least 2 years of college or technical school education to help us out. So I think there's a marketing piece that is available to us to make that happen.
Thank you. Adam?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
Substitute teachers. Number 7.
Thank you. How can we increase the number of substitute teachers available for Oshkosh schools?
So the most important thing for recruiting teachers and substitutes is to make people feel like it's something that is valued. That is, it's something that is needed, and it's contributing to the betterment of the school environment. So the more that we can collaborate with local businesses and local leaders to say, this is something that we as a community need, our students need, and that in doing this, you're contributing to our students' betterment. And the more that we can promote that and remind people of that, the virtue of teaching, that way, the more people I think we can find to step in and do that when we've created safe and uplifting environments.
Thanks. Kelly?
Thank you. So I would like to piggyback off of, again, what both Barb and Adam had stated. I think that, one of the main components in not only retaining staff, but as well, substitute teachers as well, is we need to look at the pay, right? I know that there was an increase last year, but we're still not competitive with surrounding districts. I know Adam had mentioned and talked about collaborating, and I think that, by creating a positive school culture, people are going to be more susceptible to come and want to teach and want to share their education and experience with our young learners.
Okay, thank you. This will be our final question. It's hot off the press. It's just in. Historical truth is often a product of the lens through which we view it. For example, Columbus Day celebration or Indigenous Peoples' Day. How would you ensure what is taught in our schools respects that principle? And we'll start with you, Kelly.
Thanks. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure, it might not sound quite the same, but we'll try. Historical truth is often a product of the lens through which it's viewed. For example, is it Columbus Day or is it Indigenous Peoples' Day? How would you ensure that what is taught in our schools reflects that principle?
Well, I think that's an excellent question, so thank you. I believe that treating and really teaching our children, especially our younger children, to treat each other as how they would want to be treated, right? I think that, children see children as just that, children. And, each child or each family celebrate different things differently, and I think it's important to honor that, respect that, and, again, treat each other how we would want to be treated. Thank you.
Thanks. Barb?
Thank you. Again, if you listened to the school board meeting or watched the school board meeting last night, you know that we did talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I stated earlier, part of our job is to make sure that students learn critical thinking skills, not necessarily how to think, but or not what to think, but how to think. To be able to look at something through another lens, somebody else's lens, their truth. That we're not all alike, and we need to respect those different viewpoints. We have a way of evaluating all of our staff members, our teachers, with equity at the center. And last night at the board meeting, we had a long discussion about a revised central office reorganization plan, which would embed equity into every one of those job descriptions. So I think bringing equity to the forefront, having an equity policy, which I stated earlier is probably coming to the board for approval within the next month, and making sure that our students are taught how to think. Thank you.
Okay, Adam? Did you answer that already?
No, I have not
Okay.
yet. So whenever it comes to questions of how to teach, I think it's the board's responsibility to hire good people and trust them to do that work. So I don't think the board has a place in dictating how things are taught, and I think our educators know the right way and good ways to creatively, equitably talk about things like different holidays and the historical context of any of these events and things. And again, I think students are well aware that there are controversies in the world and they don't intimidate them. So teachers and educators that can come in and have those discussions and do it in a way that is age appropriate, I think the more that we can encourage that, the better off we'll be.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quick follow-up for that. For this, you're each going to get 30 seconds. Got it, timekeeper? Throw her a curveball there. As a school board member, would you be committed to directing the superintendent to hire professional DEI staff? Adam, why don't you go first?
Yes, indeed.
That was easy. Kelly?
I think that's something that needs to be looked at and discussed from a taxpayer point of view. If this is something that we are going to, put on the taxpayers, I wholeheartedly believe that we cannot continue down the path of raising the tax levy while having our ears closed to parents, families, and community members. So I don't believe that this is a fair place for me to say yes or no, or even the school district. I think we need to count on and look at the taxpayers' point of view as well. Thank you.
And Barb?
Our student body is increasingly diverse. We have roughly 15% of our students who are receiving special services as being special needs. We have roughly 42% free and reduced lunch. We have roughly 30% who do not identify as Caucasian or white. And so I do think that we need to be serious about making sure that not only do we train all of our teachers in dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion in a correct manner, but thank you.
Darn, I
Answer
wanted
is
to hear
yes.
how that ended. Well, hold that thought, Barb,
I will, thank you.
because I'm going to give you each 1 minute now to say anything that you would like, and we'll start with you, Barb.
Thank you. I know I've been a little bit long-winded, but as a school board president, I'm not used to being timed for 1 minute. Maybe I should be, but anyway, here we go. I've served on the board for 10 years. I think I've demonstrated my commitment, dedication, energy, and strong leadership as a board member. People describe me as a strong, experienced, and caring leader. I stand for increasing student learning and growth for all students, updating our facilities, promoting equity and transparency, emphasizing fiscal responsibility. The board's going in a good direction, and I would like to continue, so I'm asking for your vote on April 4th. And thank you to the league for making this forum possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you. I would just like to say that as school board members, we have to be willing to listen and to be responsible and accountable for our decisions from the classroom to the budget. If we want to raise our test scores, narrow the achievement gap, and improve literacy rates, the entire community has to have a buy-in. And if we continue to ignore, we aren't going to make any progress. And I just want to, again, touch on the Oshkosh community and the schools being extremely diverse. And I think that it is very, very important to have a board member who is willing to come and bring forth some diversity of thought, not continuously agree to please all of the other board members. I think it's important to be able to ask those tough questions, stand up and fight for the community, the taxpayers, and I would ask for your vote on April 4th. Thank you.
Thanks. Adam?
So I just wanted Angie Lee to run, and when she wasn't going to run, she asked if I would be able to step in and continue on with the work in equity and inclusion and improving access for all of our students and improving support for our teachers and staff. So that's what I'm doing here. And so I want to continue being engaged in the community in this new way. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, this concludes the forum for the Oshkosh Area School District Board. On Tuesday, April 4th, you may vote for 2 of these candidates, Barb Herzog, Adam Belcarelli, or Kelly DeWitt. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Everyone must show a photo voter ID. You may register when you go to vote on Election Day. Just be sure to take a proof of residence with you. You can find more information on registration, ballot, acceptable photo IDs, and polling places at myvote.wi.gov. You can go to vote411.org to learn more about the candidates. And you may also consider voting early or absentee. You would need to contact your city or town clerk for more information. It may not be consistent. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County, I want to thank all of you for participating in our forum tonight. Remember, our democracy depends on citizen involvement. So please, vote on April 4th. Thank you for coming.